I call the meeting to order.
Good evening. Take roll.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Jindal, Councilman Leonard, Councilman Rigsby,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Daly,
Here.
Mayor Duper.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Daly, would you lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
Father in heaven, thank you for the many blessings you provide us, that we live in a democracy, that we have the opportunity to vote and participate on multiple levels. And we thank you that we live in this wonderful little city. We pray now that you be with us in our discussions and deliberations and ask for your guidance. Amen. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. City Manager, other than the one item on our, oh, we do have two, sorry. Do we have any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Okay, looking to the public, if anyone would like to speak on any non-agendized item, you can come forward now. Seeing no takers, we'll move on to conflicts of interest. We haven't heard anybody disclose anything, so we are right into our scheduled items. 2A, a public hearing on an urgency ordinance.
Yes, I do have a PowerPoint presentation to discuss this, and there is a slightly revised ordinance from the one that was in the agenda, and that's on your dais for you, but we'll go into that. So this is, the proposed ordinance is an inclusionary housing ordinance. So I'll just hit the highlights here. Do I not have it on? I think it'll be, yes, it'll be part of the,
This button,
oh,
we have it upside down.
oh. I should have looked at the print down here. Okay. So as indicated here, an inclusionary housing ordinance encourages the development of residential units that are affordable. There's a problem with all cities face trying to have the development of enough affordable housing. So because of the purpose is to address a couple of things, or a variety of things. One, the increased demand of a working class workforce generated by market rate development. And Loma Linda's RENA allocation, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation of 523 units that are affordable to very low incomes, and 311 units affordable to low income.
Quick question.
Yes.
Does that include current units, or does that mean starting from scratch today?
All units.
Okay.
Yes.
So we get credit for the stuff we did.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. And there's an overall present housing supply crisis in California, as we know, which is why we've been receiving some of the legislation that we've been receiving. So the city does have authority to adopt an inclusionary housing ordinance regulating units for sale. That's an exercise of its police power. And this is a quote from a case, I think it's a 2016 case, that like many other land use regulations, an inclusionary unit requirement simply places a restriction on the way the developer may use its property by limiting the price for which the developer may offer some of its units for sale. And then in 2017, the previous quote was from a case. In 2017, the legislature adopted Senate Bill 1505, authorizing cities to adopt inclusionary housing for units for rent. So the inclusionary housing ordinance only applies to a housing development project, residential projects. So all residential units and a common interest development created through the conversion of existing residential units and mixed-use development that. Um, Well, if you have existing units and they are created into some sort of common interest development, condominiums, I imagine, then they are considered residential units as well.
I still don't know what that means, but go ahead.
Okay.
It'll become more clear.
So a housing development project, it only applies to those proposing the development of 10 or more dwelling units. So development smaller than 10 units, this would not apply to. So the developer has two options. Either 10% of all dwelling units sold or rented to very low income households. Or they can go with the second option, which is a minimum of 5% of all dwelling units sold to very low and 10% sold or rented to low income. Then they have an alternative if they don't want to do either one of those, or it's not feasible for them to do one of the other two. They can pay in lieu fees, or they can do off-site construction of affordable units, or they can rehabilitate market rate units and convert them to affordable units. So this is the process. They submit an application and a housing plan, and then staff reviews it and determines if the application is complete. Then the reviewing authority approves the project and the agreement. That would be the city council. There's a housing agreement, making clear what the requirements are. Then the agreement is executed and recorded, so it's binding and it runs with the land. And then the city issues the permits once that housing agreement has been executed and recorded. So this just indicates for the rental units what the threshold is currently. Very low is family of four with an income of $46,600, and what the affordable rent is. And then you can see the numbers for the low and then the moderate. So the ordinance does have safeguards to ensure that it's fair. As we saw earlier, there are two options for the on-site development, either 10% of very low or 5% of very low and 10% of low. And then there were the three alternative options: the in lieu fee, the off-site construction, the conversion of market rate to affordable. In the ordinance has a method to appeal the in lieu fees if the applicant believes the fees are not justified. And there is a method to request a determination on whether it's a taking if the applicant believes the requirements constitute a regulatory taking. There's also a process to appeal decisions regarding the housing agreement or the takings determination. And then we do plan, we haven't done it yet, to do an inclusionary housing feasibility study that will look at everything and determine what the appropriate in lieu fee amount would be. So the city's preference, yes, is for the developer to actually construct these affordable units. but we are required to provide an alternative to that. The alternative would be that they pay cash into a fund. Yes, that the city can later utilize to build the affordable units.
Would that go to the housing authority or would it go somewhere else?
It's, the ordinance contemplates an inclusionary housing trust fund, that it would go into a separate fund.
Administered by the housing authority?
No,
By the city.
by the city.
This is similar to the RDA, exactly like RDA. Can't remember they used to set the money aside as you went out and bought a bunch of property on Poplar Street, and we carry them all down, and we rent or lease the property to the builders.
So because I'm fairly simplistic in my brain function, what I'm understanding is that if they can't meet the standards that we're describing, then they can buy their way out and the burden becomes the city's burden
Yes,
to provide that kind of funding.
yes.
But the goal is to establish a fee that equates to building an affordable unit. Yeah. So I mean,
But I guess if the developer doesn't believe that's reasonable, why would we take that burden on? In other words, the developer's saying, okay, I'll dump this money in your account, and then it's your problem. Why would we do that?
well, we're required to give them an alternative, but maybe it wouldn't be as feasible for this project as it would be in a different location on a different project or on property that the city would have. It's just, it's a flex.
Give the city control.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so for example, you are putting together 10-acre lots with $5 million houses, and
That's the
you
developer.
have to make one of those affordable for a $1,400 mortgage. You'd rather pay the in lieu fee, and then the city can put them on smaller lots or build apartments in lieu of that kind of stuff.
It almost feels like we're holding the developer hostage at that point then. It's almost like a,
Absolutely.
Developers got an escape mechanism now.
well, I would also say to the counter what Dr. Rigsby said. If I was buying said $5 million home, I'm probably buying it because I want a certain neighborhood and a certain, so I don't know that I would want to have an affordable covenant house there. So I don't know. I'm still more that let the market decides what's to be built, but I just don't like us meddling in this.
Well, the whole point of it is that if you're going to do it, you have to have these different options. And if I were a developer, I would rather pay the in lieu fee than
Oh, I agree.
to build.
I absolutely agree.
But that, we can
But that's
we
dumping
can-
the problem on us.
we can move that dial by figuring out how much the in lieu fee is,
But
right?
That's
Because
another question.
we have to do a study
if
that's
these are
reasonable.
$10 million
Right.
Yeah.
lots and
Yeah.
houses, as Councilman Rigsby describes. And so they pay a fee based on the property value of that development?
We don't know yet.
Well, that's why I'm uncomfortable.
The in lieu fee is yet to be determined.
Can we create an ordinance without having that second option well defined?
Well, clearly, because if we're going to put it in tonight,
That's my question.
You mean without the in lieu fee provision? We have to provide an alternative. State law says that.
but we don't have to come up with the formula tonight.
No, we're not coming up with the formula now. We are going to be doing a study, and one of the methodologies is square footage, and they look at all that in various areas. So, I mean, I don't know how that all,
Hypothetical, let's assume we actually develop the scenarios, which is, rampant with problems. But assuming we did that, and so a developer said, I'll sacrifice 2 of the houses in my project with X number of acres, and I'll pay the fee, the in lieu fee. Is that based on property he or she is sacrificing? Or, because then we could go to Loma, North Loma Linda, across the freeway and build something, but how do you, what's the?
May I, Mayor Pro Tem Daly, do you mind, I don't know if the speaker is on. I can't.
Yours is going in and out as we talk.
It's-
Is it something with the system?
He never turned his.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I didn't know I needed to. My wife tells me to tune it down, so
I have a question that might clarify it.
Okay.
Is the state still requiring a 15% unit number, or is it requiring 15% of the budget number?
It's my understanding that it's 15% of the units to be developed.
So an extremely rich project could do the in lieu of, and then we could get 15% of the units at a much lower cost somewhere else.
Presumably, yeah.
So that's the whole point behind the in lieu.
I mean, the legislature has recognized that 15% is a solid number. So that's why we're using but actually we're using 10% on low, very low, and then the 15% would be 5 on very low and 10 on low. So the developer can determine which works best. I think I had something else. I don't know. There we go. Let me make sure. Yes, okay. So this project is exempt from CEQA because the EIR that has been done previously, certifying the housing element of the general plan, already contemplated the development of affordable housing. And affordable housing does not approve a specific development, change development, or use standards, or increase any physical impact on the environment. It's the same number of units, it's just some are restricted in price. So we're proposing that this ordinance be adopted on an urgency basis to ensure that all future housing projects address the need for affordable units because we need to meet our RENA numbers. This ordinance being adopted on an urgency basis does require a 4/5 vote. So that would be 4 of you voting in the affirmative. And then staff, as we usually do with urgency ordinances, we do a similar ordinance going the regular route. So the same ordinance will go to the Planning Commission at the February 7th meeting and then come back to the council for a first and second reading. It's just the recommended course when you do an urgency ordinance if,
may I ask you one other question?
Sure.
Bullet point number 1. Ensure qualifying housing development project addresses the needs for affordable units immediately. I thought we've been doing that all along.
We have, but the state went back and changed the RENA numbers on us. That's why all this is so hokey. It's a moving target that's not fair. And so that's why I personally don't even feel like entertaining this. That's where I sit, because we're playing.
It's not an option, though, is it?
We're playing the state's game, and they always win.
Yeah.
And they always move the target. And it's just, it's what do they do next year? So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm sitting, to be honest with you.
So when you say you're not supportive of even considering this, is that an option?
Of course.
It's absolutely an option.
So what are the consequences if we say we don't want to be part of this?
So I guess I would like to know how many other cities have these type of ordinances in place. What does this do to our pending development projects that are already in the pipeline? Why does this have to be so urgent that we've got to get this through before next month's meeting? Those are all questions that I know I've gotten some of the answers to personally, so I don't need to repeat them here publicly, but I don't know. I'm a fair and free market guy, and it just feels like we're I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
We're playing the state's game, and this state is just getting worse and worse and worse in how they try to dictate.
You have a U-Haul rental, ready to move
I
out?
wish I could, I can't get one.
Got to go out of state and get one, drive it back, and then load it, and then you can go.
So the issue over here is because we have qualifying development happening in Area D, which is why we need it before February.
Well, we have a
actually not
variety
very-
of
not very
projects that are coming down. So
Area D's already done. It's too late.
Long ago. With this
But there are
impact,
other development projects coming.
Councilman Jindal mentions Area D, but we have the current development that's being planned is on Beaumont and that whole region. I don't know how to describe it. And I assume that's what we're talking about. My perception fits Dr. Rigsby's, which is that Area D's was done several years ago. So the follow-up would be, how would this potentially, if at all, affect all the development we're talking about on the Beaumont project?
It would affect that
it's
project.
going to affect any development whose application has not been deemed complete.
And where are we at with that, with the Beaumont project? Because we've approved some stuff.
We just finished the annexation and we approved just the lot that what's gonna look like, but we have not approved.
So the footprint of the lots, but that's a critical part to is this ordinance gonna be able to come in and readjust all of that to fit this ordinance?
Well,
Because we've approved that already, I think.
I,
haven't we?
I'm not familiar with where all the projects are and the approvals, but it would, under the terms of the ordinance, it's going to apply to any development application that has not been deemed complete. So, I,
Same question. Where does that leave us?
So I'm not sure the exact status of that specific project, but if the tentative map is approved, but the plan design, like the homes, is not approved, then it will apply to that project.
So you're saying if the lots, the design of the lots within the project are approved, but the specific,
The site design of the homes, so the design review.
because I don't think we've approved that level.
And it's not if they're approved, it's if they're deemed complete, which means that they're ready to move to planning commission or city council. So if it's just a design review, that won't go to city council, it will only go to planning commission.
One of the other things that I was just thinking about right now is that we're shortchanging the planning commission, the ability to weigh in on this also. Correct? By enacting an
Yes.
emergency ordinance, we're going
Right.
around the planning commission.
It
That's
will be heard by planning commission. Is that right, Diane? Yes.
The non-urgency version.
correct.
I'm even more confused now. So I spent time going through this thing on, when I say Beaumont project, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I looked at the lot sizes, I promoted, we need to add a park in that, and that didn't work. So, but we ultimately approved what was submitted to city council. So I'm trying to figure out, do we meet the approval that that's already a done deal? Or are we now needing to reassess that whole project?
That project came in as a single-family lot.
Yes.
So therefore, the minimum lot requirement is 7,200 square foot lot. So they cannot go in to build a smaller lots for low income or condominium projects.
So how does that,
So this one, more likely, yes, they can build a house and rent it out or sell it at a low price. if they want to do it, if not, they have to pay in lieu fee. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
I want to just throw a wrench in the whole thing. The state recently passed some laws that some of us feel gut Measure B, and a lot of the citizens initiative type stuff. And what prevents the developers from abandoning their current project and going back with a modified project that has much higher density in order to accommodate this demand? Whereas right now, if we just leave them alone, they're sailing along happy enough with their current project. So what's the risk we have of just making the whole thing grind to a halt and abandon the old project and start over again? Because the legislature is paradoxically, as a left-wing legislature, is extremely attractive in their approach to high-density, rapacious developers. So, are we basically unleashing that on ourselves?
Good question. I agree.
All right, question I wanted to ask before and didn't get a chance. We said that we don't have a formula for the fee, but on one of the pages here, it says $243,750 per required affordable unit. What is that? Because I was interpreting that as the fee.
We were revising that. That number, when we did the initial, let me find where that is. That was based on, I think it was a 4-unit subdivision. Mark Hipsch was familiar with that, where that was the affordable unit amount for that project. So when we initially drafted that, we thought we would use that number because that was established historically as a number that had been used. But it was determined that that might be probably too low, it might be too high, too low. So we determined that it would be better to have the amendment read that the in lieu fee, until the study is done, and we intend to get going on the study as soon as possible, that it would be based on what's in the paragraph above that, a per unit price that's equivalent to the cost of providing a comparable unit that would have been provided in the development. So a fee that's consistent with that and is agreed upon between the city and the applicant. So if there's something that comes down before the in lieu feasibility study is done, that's how we would determine the fee. That would be a more accurate way to determine the fee.
Okay. That makes sense. Other question. So you gave the numbers that we need. It's what, 523 units, very low income, 311 units to low income, and 350 units to affordable to moderate income. From our conversations in the past, I remember that Loma is ahead of what the numbers we need them to be. If we're already meeting these numbers, does new housing development still need to have these requirements?
It doesn't count anymore.
So the problem is, was it last year or the year before that they met again and they said, we were doing really good. And they said for all of the California cities, we're going to recalculate your RENA numbers. And they came up with these crazy numbers that we could never, ever possibly attain, like exponentially more. So I forget, there's cities that have to add like 7,000, units and things like that. I don't remember what our number is, but I mean, it's exponentially more. It's so unattainable, it's not even a reality. That's why I think the thing is so laughable, is that for years and years and years, we tried so hard to play by their rules, and we were actually winning the game. We were there,
and then they just change the rules. So what means they won't change the rules next year? So if we're doing this just because of the RENA numbers, I'm concerned. What Dr. Rigsby brought up is a concern to me also. I think we have some good developments potentially on the table, and I would like to see those versus some other not so great developments. So I just don't know. I just don't know why we're doing this.
And to follow up on that, because I think, I'm sorry. To follow up on that, because I think the mayor makes some important points. If we've got the questions that we're articulating now, I've got to believe that many other cities in the state have the same issues. So is there any kind of movement in the direction of you can't change the rules mid-game to the state? Because otherwise, it doesn't sound like much of a democracy to me.
There's a couple of cities that already sued the state for the arena. They did.
They lost.
So,
It's not the answer I was looking for, but okay.
And our friends in the organized city world are on the state side.
Who, I don't know who that is.
The big cities.
But it's got to impact them even more than us.
They don't want to stay there very long. They're moving up into that next level.
What's that?
Their politicians are moving up to the next level.
Oh,
They don't care so much about
greasing their
going
skids.
to the next level.
Yeah.
They got to make friends with everybody else.
So if I could real quickly go back to the question I asked, if we were meeting that 2051, I understand that we're not, would we still have to abide by this ordinance? Okay. Which is the 10% of the total number of units built have to be for low income. I'm still,
No,
To put this in a little more perspective in terms of RENA, there are some cities that are completely built out, like Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills,
Santa Monica, we had a lady consult with us on this from Santa Monica. And she said, and I know this is factual because my brother-in-law lives in Pasadena.
Mhm.
And that's where she lives. I said Santa Monica, Pasadena. And in the last 3 years, I don't know who bought them up, but somebody bought up houses across from where he lives, raised them, and they're building multi-story. So they're going vertical because there's no more dirt left in Pasadena.
and the state is probably going to give them awards for that because that's what they want, which is fine if in whatever. But my point is that there are cities that have no more area to build out. They have no land whatsoever, like
We're
what you're
getting
talking
close to
about.
that here.
And yet they have these RENA numbers that are just unattainable, in the thousands of units. So where are they supposed to come up with that unless we did level most houses and just build multifamily?
Yeah.
Which is again fine.
If you want to see the future, just check out Seoul, South Korea. That whole city is identical, huge apartment complexes. The whole city. It looks like a mushroom crop.
Which is even I'm not opposed to that either because it's I guess what I am opposed to is when the big government tells the little government you can't be independent. You can't be whatever it is that you have there that may be working that you like, that's your community. No, you got to be in line with everything else. And
That's a philosophical question. It's legitimate.
it is.
We're
And
talking about what's the balance between local government, state government, and federal government. And that's going to be a debate that'll last forever.
so if you look at the motto of the California League of Cities, it is 2 words. It's been 2 words since its inception. And those 2 words are local control. Everything the League of Cities argues at Sacramento is local control. Allow us to make our decisions locally so that Loma Linda is unique from San Bernardino and unique from Redlands and Colton.
So
Correct.
is League of Cities challenging this in any way?
Well, the league, like I was sharing earlier, the League of Cities is really powerless now. I mean, there's very few lobbyists in Sacramento that can challenge anything. It's crazy. And my comparison is we were talking about MAD. Remember MAD? Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They used to see TV commercials for MAD, and you no longer see that anymore. They've gone away, and I feel like League of Cities is going the same way. They just don't have that kind of influence. We meet with legislators all the time, and they still do what they do. And that's why I say it's fascinating. I tell people this is not partisan. It's 100% not partisan. If you talk to most local elected officials, state and county electeds, they have the same complaints. Once people move on to Sacramento, they somehow forget where they came from. I listened to a lobbyist talk to us at a league meeting last week that talked about how polling and the constituents will tell the state elected leaders they know what they want, but they ignore them because the money in Sacramento is so powerful and so swaying. It doesn't matter what your residents say. That's where these politicians go. So I tell people again and again, it's not a partisan thing. It's just a difference between local and state, and it's so bizarre. So.
If I can ask one other question, I think this is a straightforward question that would be helpful to me. We've gone through a process to approve this Beaumont project. I'm coming local again. Is this going to threaten what we've already approved?
If it's already been approved, then this ordinance will not apply to it.
But it's not.
Well, but what I understood you to say before is that we've approved the design of the development, but we have not approved the specific specifications for the houses or what apartments or whatever are going to go in there. And so
Is
what I'm
that true,
sensing
Jarb?
is we're caught in the middle here right now.
Was the design review not approved? I wasn't here when that
They only
project.
approved the tentative track map.
Okay, so then the design review has not moved forward and is not complete.
And the difference is that the design review would include the specifications on the houses that are going in. We've got a track map. Yeah, well, then I've got a big problem with this.
Does the can't impose this provision toll when the thing is submitted or when it's complete, deemed complete?
Deemed complete.
So then what does that do to this urgency? Sounds unurgent to me,
Well,
because that takes a while.
it will apply to any project that has not been deemed complete.
Therefore, all the projects that we're thinking we have to be urgent about aren't going to be complete for months. Why is it urgent?
Okay. I don't know where each one is in their level of review.
Dan, do
So-
you know why we moved forward with the urgency ordinance?
What's that?
I'm sorry?
Do you know why we moved forward with an urgency ordinance?
We proposed the urgency ordinance so it would take effect and apply to anything that has not yet been deemed complete. Whether something gets deemed complete between now and if we go the regular route, I can't answer that question.
Having submitted a project to this city and taken months and years to get things done, I can't imagine anything that's not on the verge of completion would be done in the next couple of weeks or the next few months even.
I mean,
So
it's up to the council, certainly.
I'm beginning to doubt the urgency.
I'm beginning to doubt the legitimacy of the whole proposal.
Quickly, want to go back to the question I asked because I don't think I got my answer. You were hesitating a little, Diane. 2051, if we had met that, would any new development still need that 10, 15% number?
Well, I think as the mayor has indicated, that number is going to change based on what we are assessed with our Regional Housing Needs Authority, our RENA numbers.
So under the current text that we were initially proposing, would that apply?
Under the, I'm not understanding the question.
So if we had 2,051 units right now, would any future project still need to make a minimum of 10% of the total number of units affordable?
Yes, based on the ordinance, yes, it's going to apply going forward.
But we don't have it.
I get the ordinance is what does that. But would the state have mandated that? I know the numbers change, but say that the number doesn't change, would we still need to have all
Well,
future projects follow that?
I guess in the future, if the council determined that they didn't need an inclusionary housing ordinance to achieve the number of affordable units that the city is being asked to achieve, the council could change it and remove it and repeal it.
And here's the background of why I'm asking, because a few months ago, we had discussed that we wanted to develop the area by the popular low-income housing, that whole area. So my question is, if that area gets developed, that's going to be a little higher in density. If that were to meet our needs of the number of units we needed, then would we need projects like the Beaumont project to abide by this? Because the city would have met its need as dictated by the state.
I think if the city meets its required numbers, the city can repeal this ordinance if it determines that this ordinance is not necessary to achieve the level of affordability that the city is being assigned to achieve.
Okay, so if, I think I got a clearer sense now. Say that project does go forward, now we have all the low-income housing that we need in the city. We don't have to mess with any of our other projects. So we wouldn't really need this if we believe that's gonna happen.
If that gets us to the required number and the council determines that we don't have to mandate the construction of affordable units because we're there.
Okay. So then, next question, I guess that would be for the city manager. Are we gonna be able to meet these numbers without having to have this ordinance? Okay.
And the reason is we're not a builders. And so we don't have a land, we don't have the money to go build those low-income housing. And the reason, the one that we worked last time when we did Poplar Street, we have subsidized from the state and RDA and the county. That's the only way it worked. But that funding are gone.
Funding is gone.
RDA is gone. So yes, we still do have, sometimes the county provides some subsidized funding to build low-income housing, but it's not even close to get it built.
I have a question. Just getting back to basics. For the whole 18 years I've been around here, RENA basically said, this is a goal. It's not a mandate to build. It's a mandate to zone for affordable housing. Is that still the case? Do we have to redo our inventory of land to show that we can use very dense, greater than 25 units per acre approach and achieve these goals? Is that what RENA is about, or does RENA actually require building? Because the numbers that I've always heard we were talking about were not RENA numbers. We weren't meeting RENA by building affordable housing. We were meeting some other standard. And it wasn't, because RENA is all about zoning. If that's still true, then why are we running scared against RENA? Because all we have to do is zone.
Well, we have to have a certain number of sites in our inventory. I mean, I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying. But we do need to be trying to create affordable housing. I mean, you know, we have to satisfy HCD and our housing element.
Mhm.
So,
Which is separate from RENA. And they're the ones who actually want to see homes built. And the projects that are coming up are very interesting in that they are the lots in one of the projects are subject to the limits from Measure V, the 7,200 square foot minimum. But some of them have much larger lots. And I can't imagine that we would take, it's not even considered kosher by the state to build an affordable house on a 7,200 square foot lot, because the state envisions affordable housing being high density apartments. So there's no requirement whatsoever that you build any mansions and make them affordable. So it just seems kind of odd that we would pull the trigger on this on the last remaining big lot development that we've got going on, when that's a totally inefficient way to build affordable units anyway. So, you know, I'm starting to think that, you know, why are we doing this to ourselves and trying to trap this one apart, or this last large lot development in our town, which ostensibly would be a very nice development, and turn it into, you know, how are you going to get a $1,400 a month rent on a house on a 15,000 square foot lot?
I think, like you mentioned earlier, I think staff's counting on the fact that they would take option 2. My concern is we don't even have an option 2 at this point.
Yeah, but what we're basically saying is, this isn't to build more affordable housing units. This is just to build up a kitty so that we can do it later. It's all about the money.
Correct.
And, you know, that's going to result in a combination of less profits for the developer and higher prices. But we all know prices are determined by the marketplace. Developers don't determine prices. It's the marketplace. So it's basically taking from the profits of developers. So as long as we understand that's what this does, you know, you can judge, is that a good thing or not? But it's not about building units, because Arena is not about building units.
Well, I agree. I think you're right in the past. I do think RENA's taken on more, like AKMD and SCAG. They're now, we're gonna be the gas police, or we're gonna, you know what I mean? RENA is now, these groups have taken on more and more authority, and more, or they think they have the authority, whether or not they actually do, I don't know. But it's like the state's encouraging them. So those RENA numbers and those reports serve to further stoke the zeal of the Sacramento politicians that we need to build. I think. I don't know.
Follow up to the comments that have just been made. One comment and then a simple question. Most of my life, I've been involved in higher education and been a teacher and researcher and so forth. And if I changed the requirements in a course I was teaching midway through the course, I'd get hammered. And when I was academic dean, I would have been the person doing the hammering. You just don't do that. It's not ethical. But if I'm understanding this correctly, that's basically what's happening here, is they're changing the numbers, changing the requirements mid-course. And so I come back to the question that, why isn't somebody suing these guys, and how can they lose? It's not ethical. Legal, I don't know. Ethical, I do. So the simple question is, what are the potential, if we if we deny approval of the urgency ordinance, what are the potential consequences we would be facing? What are the risks we're taking?
Well, we're,
Do we have that as an option? Because that's kind of where I'm landing at this point.
I mean, since, the enforcement mechanisms of, I don't know, but lots of cities are adopting these inclusionary housing ordinances.
So maybe they're
okay.
fools.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm serious in my question, though.
No, I understand.
I mean, I want to know the risks. If they're going to bankrupt the city over lawsuits, we're probably going to go along with it. On the other hand, there are some pretty fundamental issues that I have with this that I don't have satisfactory responses or feelings about.
Well,
So I'm not trying to put you on.
No.
I'm not putting you on
No.
the edge, Dr.
We have,
Maybe I could jump in and
we have, okay.
maybe. I could be out on a limb here. Maybe there's maybe there's 4 votes that want to move this through on the urgency, but I'm getting the feeling that there's still a lot of questions about it, and so maybe the comfort level is not to say no for forever, but maybe the comfort level is we just don't want to do the urgency piece, and we let it traverse through the regular process, and wait and see what we get in front of us whenever that comes. Is that what we're feeling? I got at least one.
So I'm fine with that, but I think to Dr. Daly's question, what is the risk if we do that?
Yes. So that's my second part. My second part is maybe when this comes back, it comes back a little more comprehensive. And then when this comes back, it answers those specific questions that we all lay out. You've got questions. Ron's got questions, and we ask that when this comes back through the regular process, those questions are answered.
We do have special land use counsel, so they would be in a better position to respond to some of these questions.
Who is that?
So it's the
Mark Hip.
Colantuno firm. It's Colantuno, Highsmith, and Watley. So
Is that Hipsch? No. What happened to him?
He's still here.
oh yeah, Mark Hipsch has been in on all of this as well.
So we have someone else.
Yeah, more specialized counsel. So, so they were just unavailable to be here tonight. They will be present at the Planning Commission on February 7th when the Planning Commission addresses the regular ordinance. So,
So the difference between regular ordinance and urgency ordinance would be,
that if, because this is a land use issue and a zoning matter, it goes to the Planning Commission first, and then it would go to the City Council for introduction, and then there would be a second hearing on the ordinance for adoption. So
is there any kind of timetable we need to meet on this? Could we just delay this for the next 10 years? I'm assuming the answer is no, but I'm trying to understand I'm trying to figure out where the guardrails are on this for the city.
perhaps between now and when it would come before the council, we could get a response addressing the what if we don't do it, what would be the consequences, what would be the penalties,
Yeah.
and
I'd also
provide
like
that
to know
the
what
council.
other cities around us have done this. What
Yeah,
else?
We could do a survey.
And getting back to my prior point, since the tripwire for this thing, the urgency mattering, is a deeming of completeness, which is nowhere near happening, I don't think there's any difference between the slow and the fast. That's why I'm not prepared to vote for the urgency of it. You know, if we don't pass the urgency, we can't do anything.
Okay, so the next question is, I
Right.
think
It's
we're at a good
right,
point.
it's not in effect.
Do we all want to make sure our questions are actually heard so they're included in that next.
I'm good with that. Again, just if someone can answer this question. So why was this brought today if it's not an emergency?
Yeah. We're the ones that think it's not. The state and others think it is.
The state just wants its numbers met, but like if we don't have anything that this is gonna impact, I don't know, does it impact anything or am I just missing something? Because I heard some mumbling and then like that wasn't an answer though.
Well, the staff believes it's important to get this in place as soon as possible. When applications may be deemed complete, that could be before a regular ordinance gets approved. It may not be, as Councilmember Rigsby has pointed out.
I move to delay this till the next meeting.
So that would be my next question. So
Yeah,
if we just
before we
don't-
go any further, I'd like to hear Jarvis' perspective. You're the guy in the hot seat on everything related to the city. So what's your perspective on this? We're pontificating on the
Well,
delays.
the reason we're doing this is to make sure that the new development that come into town will either set aside some land for low-income housing or give us, pick the option two where they give the city the money so that we can have the money that we can develop this land in the projects in the futures. But it's getting,
That's fine for the future. I'm very bothered by developers go through a lot of work to prepare a proposal like we've already approved. And we have an established relationship with this developer. And, I don't want to just blame stuff on the state. I want to be a little more proactive and engaged than that. And I've got problems with it.
which is fine. That's why we are bringing it to you tonight. And that's my job, and Diana's job is to bring it to the city council and because that's a law requirement, and if you vote no or not approve to it, fine. And then what happening is even if we have money to build the low income housing, we still gonna have a hard time building it because it costs a lot of money and we don't have land to build it with, and it's just.
Yeah.
Yep, that's an interesting point right there. So if we don't have the money and we don't have the land, how do they force us to build it?
You have to tear it down and build something new.
RENA doesn't enforce building anything, as far as I know.
But Pasadena, as I just said, they're tearing out single story homes and putting up multi-level.
That's because developers want to do that.
Well,
So developers are always going to want to do that.
I agree.
And that's why I said this is a kind of an ironic situation where the state, which is extremely left-wing, is feeding a right-wing developer community with projects, dream projects.
Let's get off on a tangent.
I
but
agree
that's
with you if you can leave the left wing and right wing out of it.
Reality intervenes.
That project you're talking about, this is getting way off topic, but that's got to be some incredible money because just to buy up all those properties you talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the rest of you were in there, but this consultant we had, what was that, a couple of years ago? The lady from Pasadena that came in and had the same kinds of issues with this low-income housing requirement. And that was my question. What is Beverly Hills? What is Santa Monica? What is Pasadena? And she says, well, interesting you mentioned Pasadena. That's where I live. And she says, basically, in order to meet those requirements, the city's collaborating, or at least working with the developers, and they're buying up these single stories. And I just happen to have a brother-in-law that lives across the street from where this is happening.
I just don't think the city can have much influence on that because the city can't stop or encourage or stop the sale
And you
of
may
those
be
houses.
right. You may be right. But the impression I was left with is that this is the only way the city believed that they could meet the state mandate. And I mean, Pasadena's got no dirt unless you start digging up parks. They just don't. And we've got a house down there, so I know a little bit about what's going on down there. So, I mean, the details I'm fuzzy on, so I can't tell you I'm an authority at all.
And under Kilo, the city does have the power to force the sale. They can
Eminent domain, is that what you're talking about?
do eminent domain and take low density and build high density.
That's-
The Supreme Court has spoken.
But if the state doesn't have authority over the city, why would the city want to do that?
There are multiple jurisdictions that can do eminent domain. It's not just cities.
And I also want to say this too, and we gotta stop because we're getting way out. But a lot of other places,
In Wyoming here,
politicians are more beholden to money and stuff than we've ever been in this town, and that's a huge value that I hope we keep here too.
So question, I know we need inclusionary housing, I know we need low-income housing, I get that. I think what we're deciding today is if this is an emergency. And I haven't heard an answer of why it is an emergency or why it was even brought. So would the motion be to have it delayed till the next meeting?
We don't need a motion.
When
The
that- and
whole
that-
agenda is hinging on that urgency. And if there's no motion or carrying 4 votes to pass that, the whole meeting is gone.
Okay, and to triple confirm, this is not jeopardizing any of our commitments or putting the city at risk immediately? Okay.
So my question is, do we have to do anything with this, or can we just leave it?
If there's not a motion to approve it or a second, it's just going to
dies.
fail.
Which I kind of prefer versus all 5 of us voting no.
No, you always want to make, yeah, yes,
As I'm-
okay.
I mean,
It's always should be an affirmative motion. So if no one makes it, it just dies. Yeah.
is there anybody who wants to make a motion on this? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent calendar.
Could I ask just one other question that bugs me? How do they determine, I think early in one of your slides, you defined not that you, but the state or whoever, very low income as $46,000 a year or less. Where did that come from? Because I've got to believe low-income housing isn't a level number throughout the state of California.
That's a good point.
It changes every year, but those are the numbers determined by HCD for the county of San Bernardino.
And it's a percentage of the median income
Of what? Of the state?
of the county, by county.
By county?
Yes. So if the
Okay,
median.
that makes more sense.
If the
So-
median income is 100,000, and let's say the threshold for very low is 40% of that,
Yeah,
it's 40,000, and then it's.
That makes more sense.
It's a formula.
Yeah, no, that makes more sense. So this is the definition of low-income housing based on the data for this county of San Bernardino. Okay,
Correct, and in the slide, there was indication of what the median was. Okay, and so it looks like very low is approximately 1/2 of, yeah, no, it's a formula.
So would this automatically be on the next meeting, or how does that work?
So it sounds like it's going to take a minute. Well, and it also sounds like it's going to take a bit to answer the questions. Okay, moving on.
Ex-
Go ahead.
This was a public hearing item?
True, so we should open it.
Okay, we're going to
Open
open
the
the
hearing.
public hearing. And I actually want to hear what Milford has to say because he has been grunting out there,
Wake up, Milford. You're being called.
and okay.
Thank you, Lynette. First of all, I think this is extremely conspiratorial. When you get to Sacramento, as you pointed out, you forget about what's going on at home because of the fact that you have to raise money to stay there. And the best source of money in Sacramento right now is the labor unions. And who is involved in building new units? I really think it's just pounding one on top of the other. And it's unfortunate because they have taken away local control. It is as though they don't care. And you see it in every walk of life. We're seeing it now in the electrification, et cetera. It's just amazing that how they've taken away local power and local input. And it's very frustrating. But this just seems so obvious that the more they promote growth or more they promote density housing, the more work there is for the people that build them. Not the developers, the people that actually pound the nails.
I'm going to put a twist. I agree with what you're saying, most of it. But when I was dean of the School of Dentistry, we had significant challenges recruiting faculty, not because they didn't want to come. I mean, we were aligned on almost everything, but they looked at the cost of living in our region. I mean, we're in San Bernardino County. We're not in the heart of Los Angeles. And I've talked with multiple other deans. I mean, UCLA was going crazy. They couldn't recruit faculty, and that's a first-class school. And the cost of living issues were significant in terms of our ability to impact who we really wanted to recruit. And that's just a microcosm.
Absolutely.
You can expand that significantly for other parts of the state. UCSF, they have a terrible time recruiting. Anyway, you get the point.
Well,
So
well,
I can see the other side of the issue, but I don't like the way they're trying to resolve it.
Yeah.
When we have houses in this town that are 1,800 square feet and selling for $700,000 and $800,000, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's gonna
people are doing it.
well, it's gonna come with a reckoning.
Yeah, well, there'll be a big collapse, but there's always a 50% drop in California. I mean, every 18 years is coming up in 2026. That's my prediction. But
2026. Okay, good. We'll wait.
yeah, I don't want anybody to be deceived. This affordable housing stuff is not about decreasing the cost of housing. It's about cross-subsidizing some of the houses
Which is why
at the expense of the other ones. So the other ones that your people need will go up
Right.
in order that these go down. This is a zero-sum game.
Which is why I said, I see the problem as significant and legitimate, but I don't like the solutions that are being forced upon us.
I've enjoyed this discussion.
Because
immensely.
effective
Thank you.
solutions
Do you have faith in your
involve-
council again or no?
Pardon?
Do you have faith in the council again or no?
No.
Not yet.
Effective solutions involve streamlining the process, and that's not allowed. When in Sacramento, they don't allow you to streamline the process. They won't simplify, the state environmental requirements, which is a requirement to get the prices to come down. But we're actually on path to get the prices to come down just because the current trajectory is unsustainable and will crash like it always does. So that's the only thing that will fix it. You know, you can only stretch the rubber band so far before it snaps on you.
Okay, moving on. Dick, did you want to say something? The only reason I didn't call you earlier because you weren't groaning as loud as Milford was.
Well, I hope, as I was mentioning to Phil earlier, if you can get a group, a company, that will put this on the ballot, these major issues go before the public. If the public says yes, that's one thing. But for government to say you will live by my dictations, I asked a question when you talked about the consultant here. Okay, you want to put 2,500 homes in Loma Linda? Where's the water coming from? She says, that's a good question. What's that going to do to your traffic flow? What's that going to do to your pollution? Oh, we're only looking at this. But you don't see the big truck that's coming down the road. That's why I say, if you get it so that legislators cannot say you can't put that on the ballot because we want this, their butts are getting fat. Their pockets are getting big. They're getting all the money shoved in to get what they want. I hate to say it. This place is going to hell. The state. Now, you're going to require the city to do this for its people. Who's got the mansions? Let's divvy that up. You know, do your own property before we do ours, but don't touch mine. And I hope the way this is going, as I say, it's not pretty. And I hate to see the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to close the public hearing and move on to the consent calendar.
Move it.
First
Second.
and a second. Madam Clerk.
Unfortunately, Councilman Jindal's computer went out, but I can.
Mine's
post
out
his-
also. Was that?
Yours is too? Oh,
I think all of them are.
Alls are out.
oh no.
I got the paper schedule or paper.
Oh, sorry.
in front of me.
I'll take a verbal vote.
Can we just,
I'm sorry. So Councilman Leonard made the motion. Second was by Rigsby. Okay.
Dr. Rigsby, all in favor? Aye.
You see.
Aye.
Thank you.
There you go.
Motion carried.
Okay, any reports of officers? Reports of council members, new business, old
I
business?
have a
Yes,
couple things.
Yes, sir.
Do you mind?
No, of course.
I got inundated recently by more than a few, probably more than several, less than a score maybe, of people irate that people are digging through their trash cans and leaving citation notices and all that. And I said, well, I can't believe they'd be doing that in our city. And I walked over to my trash can and saw a little thing here. So is this something that's going to be going on all the time, or is this just supposed to be a what do you call educational type thing? And luckily, we have Milford Harrison here to talk about it.
It's educational.
I'm serious. People are really
it's-
irate about
hold
this.
on, listen,
Have
we're
you guys heard that? Have anybody said anything to you?
Yeah,
Not me. I don't
we
care
had to
about it.
approve
People
this.
are irate.
No.
Oh, it just
Remember,
says oops, and it says all the mistakes. I made one mistake.
by law,
I had a bag in the recycle cart. Why can't you put a
by-
bag in the recycle?
by law, you cannot put certain things into certain cans. And we had the option by law, by the state mandate, back to that state thing again, we could either hire staff to do it ourselves, or we could pass that along to our contractor, CR&R, which we did, which by nature of the requirement means that our rates went up a little bit with CR&R, not a whole lot, still a great deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a phenomenal deal. They're good people, but they have to charge us a little bit more because now they've got the responsibility of looking into our trash cans to make sure that you're not throwing out things you're not supposed to.
This
Now,
is absolutely a state requirement. What the mayor said is totally true.
every city.
It's required by AB 1383, which is one of the worst pieces of legislation that's ever come down the pike. But
And that's
it's
saying
here,
something.
and it's a law, and we have to comply with it because we have state licenses too. And it's incredible.
Is it
But
gonna be
they are literally going to be looking in your green waste to see if there's food in there.
Yeah, and it will increase. It's
You know,
green-
are your corn husks in the green waste? Are your trimmings from your broccoli or whatever? Are your spoiled meat?
I'm not trying to make light of this, but we've been talking about this
No.
for years.
Absolutely.
It was enacted when? 3-4 years ago? And
Yes.
it's
No, I
final.
know.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, but it's just the public.
But I'm just saying, people are coming to me and saying, have we really gotten to the point where we're digging through people's trash cans
Yes.
and gonna find them?
Yes.
And if we are, and there's nothing we can do, that's fine, I guess, but.
That's exactly where we are. I didn't realize that they were actually out doing the tipping inspection yet, but evidently they are. So,
Called lid flipping.
Well, there some of the companies that are doing it, they've created a whole bunch of right-hand drive Jeeps, so they can just go and flip them and take a picture, and they don't actually look inside. They just take a picture, and then they're all encoded by GPS, and then they go review it later
Like a drive-by.
and find you remotely.
well, there are, and the new trash trucks are coming equipped with cameras that literally take a picture of what comes out as it comes out. So if they tip your green waste and only grass clippings come out, then you're going to get a notice.
Wait a minute.
Because it means everything went down the garbage disposal and it went to the sewage treatment plant.
Can't do that either.
What if we're
Et cetera.
cows? If we're a family of cows, we eat grass.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We're in Loma Linda. But that's
you
why
get
we
fined
live.
for-
That's why we live to
You
100
get
years.
fined for the absence of something. How can they prove I ate a turkey or something? There's no turkey carcass.
They have video of you at Stater Brothers.
Ah.
It's all combined.
Yeah.
And don't.
I mean, watermelon rinds,
Ask for-
the stuff you don't eat that
Don't ask
is
for a
part of your
straw.
food preparation.
Because that could be a misdemeanor.
You know. It's disgusting. The interesting thing is, and I think one of the great benefits is that, as most of you know, although 2 of you haven't been there yet, your food waste, your green waste, goes to Paris, to the anaerobic digestion facility that has been built for $100 million by CR&R. And that's all recycled, and it's 100% recycled. And it's turned into fertilizer, which you buy with the name Kellogg's at Home Depot, and compressed natural gas. There's another problem because the compressed natural gas, of course, everybody's after because they're saying it's a
Messes with the ozone.
it's the type of fuel like gasoline or whatever. It's
Fossil fuel.
fossil fuel. Thank you. That was the word that was escaping me. But it's not a fossil fuel. It's literally a green waste fuel. So, but they're now moving to require trash trucks to be electric. They're going to cost twice as much. They're going to weigh twice as much, which affects our streets.
God forbid if they catch on fire.
And they're,
Oh, what about ambulances? They're talking about ambulances.
yeah. And And they're going to only be able to have half as much.
Not in free states. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
Amazing.
that.
Well, anyway, one of the reasons why I brought it up is because people were so irate. But secondly, I wanted everybody to know that this wasn't a city council action that was going on, and it wasn't your CRNR or CNR.
Well, no, it was a city council. You passed an ordinance requiring recycling of food waste.
I know, but under the
At the demand of the state.
demand of
We
the
didn't have a
jackboot of the
say.
state.
That wasn't an elective decision. I
Well,
mean,
exactly right, and it's not on CRNR's
Right,
part
that's
either.
why I'm bringing it up.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, I just don't want people to think that the council is responsible for, that was our idea and this is something we wanted to do.
Exactly, and neither is CRNR.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, we're together in being under the cloud of the direction of the state of California.
So CNG is not considered clean anymore?
Well, that's what they're saying. They're just classing it as a fossil fuel. And it's
I thought
ridiculous.
it burns cleanly.
It does burn cleanly, but I do not understand that argument at all. And I haven't gotten involved with any of the experts on it. But I did find out that they have given CRNR a waiver to 2042 on their trash trucks as far as electric, if they're CNG operated. And that goes into pipelines in Paris and comes out at our yard in Colton. The trucks come in at night, they plug into it. Each truck gets a certain amount, and when the driver comes in the morning, he unplugs it and he drives, and it's full of fuel, and it's CNG. We used to have to drive to Redlands, to the Redlands corp yard, and fill the trucks. But now we have our own facility in Colton.
I've done some reading on electronic vehicles and the issues and so forth. And part of why I've done that is because I'm on Omnitrans board.
Right.
And we've purchased about a year ago several electronic buses. But man, there's a myriad of issues with that.
Absolutely.
And I won't try to articulate them now, but it's complex and it's not as clean and easy, and it's not the perfect solution.
The city of Charlotte, North Carolina is going to go bankrupt because they bought all electric buses and they've been sitting. They can't get them to work in the cold.
So Elon Musk has his dreams, but it's not a perfect solution at all. I mean, you just get into the chemicals that go into a lithium battery, and that'll make your hair on the back of your neck stand.
That's why, Ron, none of this is, listen, I want a clean environment.
Yes.
I want a green planet. But none of this it's all virtue BS crap.
Exactly.
It's about lining the pockets of people.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with doing the right thing ever. And that's what irritates me about all of this stuff. So I don't want to sit here and BS and virtue signal either. We're going to do the right things because they're the right things.
My favorite photo that I've received by email in the last few months shows a Tesla sitting beside the freeway, and next to it is a AAA pickup truck with a trailer on the back and a gasoline generator that's putting electricity into the Tesla. That's the insanity of this. It's such a great illustration.
Apparently.
We can say anything.
Apparently. One more thing.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. No, you can sit down. It has nothing to do with you. No. I pay my utility bill by online, and I was unable to pay my utility bill recently because the site wasn't working. And it kept saying, click here to reset your account. I tried everything I could do. It wouldn't reset. It wouldn't do anything. I thought, okay, probably because it's a holiday. So I waited. Started the next week, didn't work. Then I thought about it again on the weekend. I waited again, and I said, oh, it's probably the weekend. Oh, shoot. And it just won't work. It won't work, and nothing will log on and all that. So I finally, in frustration, called the city manager, told me, oh, yeah, the thing kind of broke down, and they had to reset the whole thing. So you just have to go and reinstall and re-log in. Okay, so now I reinstall and log in and get ready to pay, and now I see I owe all these fines. So it made me thinking. I actually pulled out my bill, brought that too, and I was looking at it, and it's not very clear I don't think on the bill that if you don't pay by this date, you have to pay more. I mean, it says it in the back. It says, oh, if you don't pay by the date of mailing, by 10 days after the date of mailing, you have to pay a late fee. Then you look on the front, and it doesn't say anything when the date of mailing is, right? So I'm just wondering if there were other people who tried to pay their bill and couldn't get their bill paid because of this. Their website was down, our website was down. I know you could call on the phone or you could come in and pay or something like that. But if there's anybody out there, I'm not talking about me, but if there's anybody out there that maybe had to pay a late fee because they couldn't log on, is there something we can do for those people? It's kind of frustrating. And, huh? Well, that's what I'm asking. For anybody that had problems with that, because I think that's really our fault if we didn't have that work. And secondly, is there a reason why, if you want to sign up to have it automatically pay, you have to do electronic debit, but if you want to pay off your credit card, you have to sign in every time and do it? Why is that? Maybe the credit card isn't letting you do it or something? I don't know. But it seems like that could be solve the problem if you could. A lot of people like to pay with a credit card.
Luckily, I live in town, so I come over and pay myself, so. I don't know, but I will find out and.
Well, I went to go on vacation and then I came back and it was just a mess. And I kept wondering, why is it, I don't think it's an upgrade from our previous system, the new one we have. Doesn't seem like it to me.
The auto pay thing has its own risks. Because we had a number of bills that we were paying auto pay.
Yeah.
And then our credit card, Bank of America card, got hacked twice in 1 year. And then it's not just correcting the credit card issue, but you've got to contact all of these people that are on auto pay. And I was getting the same thing you're getting, late notices, you haven't paid, we haven't heard from you. It can be a mess. This whole electronic economy has its own risk. I mean, there are advantages, it's efficient, but when it goes wrong big time. And I've been there twice in the last year and a half.
Well, the other thing that's frustrating about it, to sign up, you have to give them your email. And I think you have to give them a cell phone too, but very least you have to give them your email. So if their system goes down, why didn't they send out an email to all the people in their directory saying, our system's down, please call this number to pay your bill? Well, I guess not. I guess that's why. But Jarb could drive around to everybody's house.
I'm talking on a more global level. We had auto insurance and all kinds of stuff on this. It's a mess.
I know.
When it goes bad,
We've now officially run longer than most of our meetings with tons on the agenda, so.
Time to wake up, huh? I would suggest to everybody, when you look at your gas bill, down in the bottom corner, I think it's on the front page, right-hand side, what they paid per therm the month before and what they paid this month. In the summer, it was almost up a penny. For what? People aren't using it. So why'd the price go up?
Well, because more people aren't using it, they got to charge higher.
Well, that's why. Start comparing and looking at that, and you'll see some interesting information.
Hey, let me jump on this topic, and then I will try to be quiet. So we got an email earlier this week from not a resident, but her mother is a resident here in town at a mobile home park. And I'm not exactly certain how this works. Maybe Jarb can kind of explain it. But her mother was getting billed $800 a month for a water bill. $800 a month. And so it was accumulating, and she was complaining. Well, she was complaining to the city of Redlands and some other people, and it wasn't going anywhere. Finally, they got the right place. Jarb jumped on it. His people jumped on it right away and found out that the park was like gallons versus liters or some I don't know, French versus they were misreading their meters. But I mean, potentially we were talking, this could have been
Right, so it's a
thousands of
mobile home
dollars.
park that they have master meter up front. So the owner of the mobile home park paid the correct bill, but each individual mobile home has their own meters. So they went out and the mobile home owner went out and read the meters wrong.
Yeah, but I'm still having a hard time understanding what the owner or whoever owns the park was doing with that excess money.
No. So now that we found out, they have to pay them back.
I hope, because we're sure it's not a criminal thing.
No, they probably not did it intentionally, but they have to pay them back because I called my staff, and my staff actually went in there and talked to them, and figured out for the unit that the RV units.
Well, so it made me think, if they're overcharging every single resident, but they're only paying what the bill is they get from the city, where's that excess money go?
Yeah.
Another thing about the water bill, they have our email. So could they do something like, hey, a new bill has been posted, and send you an email like everybody else does? I get it from Southern California, and I get Southern California, yes, I get it from all sorts of people. A bill has been posted. They send it to people, and then if you're gone for 3 weeks, you can still pay it somewhere else. It just seems like it'd be a lot more efficient, and it doesn't seem like it's
Because they almost came down and they shut down my water too because I was on vacation.
yeah.
And I
It's
didn't
like
pay. But except that they know my house is open, but
For
not.
the Sun and the Press Enterprise, city manager does not pay water bill.
I know,
That's the
yeah.
headline.
The head of public works. It just seems that's a little like Web 1.0, and
Okay, anything from staff? Okay. That concludes our city council agenda. Let's move into the successor agency. Any items to be added or deleted there?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody from the public wishing to speak on anything there? Seeing actual nods no this time. That's good. We'll move on to the consent calendar.
Move it.
First and a second to my left.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted.
All in
Count-
favor? Aye. Sorry, we used to do it this way. It was so much faster.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna close that, open up the, was that the housing agenda or successor agency?
That was successful.
You said successor.
Housing agenda. Do you have any items to be added or deleted here?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody from the public want to speak on that? Again, strong head shakes I see out there. Consent calendar.
Move it.
Second, first and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
That's it, we're done. One of the longest meetings of the year.
I don't like these things. They're hard to see over if you're leaning back,
This whole thing needs to be renovated. I keep saying this, what is not